So, how do we counteract this testimony?
With our sworn affidavits from Bobby, Tony, Audrey, all attesting to your impeccable character. But the real ammunition for our case is right there. The outcome of this trial could hinge on the impression that you've made when you leave that stand.
I know. And I understand why you might have your doubts, but I can do it, really.
Good. Let's get back to
Monica, I'm sorry. I've been watching you in there, and I can't help but thinking, what a shame. That something that started out with such hope and promise should end up here. It's really kind of sad, don't you think?
I am so sorry you have to endure this abomination.
And I am so angry, mainly at myself.
Not on my account, I hope. I love you, Monica. I always have. I always will. And it doesn't matter what gets said in this courtroom.
All rise. Be seated. Mr. Graff, next witness.
Plaintiff rests, Your Honor.
Miss Davis, it's on you.
Your Honor, the defense would like to call Dr. Monica Quartermain to the stand.
Place your left hand on the Bible and raise your right hand. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Please be seated.
Occupation?
Head of cardiology at General Hospital.
How long have you held that position?
10 years.
Your Honor, I have sworn affidavits I'd like to enter into evidence from Bobby Spencer Cassadine, Audrey Hardy, and other colleagues of Dr. Quartermain's attesting to her dedication, her fairness, her honesty in the workplace, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
So ordered.
Thank you. All right, now, turning to the matter before the court. When did you first meet Dr. Dorman?
Well, he's always been rather controversial, and I guess I could say I knew of him before I met him. I guess everyone took notice of him about 2 years ago when he refused to operate on an AIDS patient.
How did you feel about a doctor who refused to work on an AIDS patient?
Well, I didn't agree with him, but I defended his right to make that choice surgically. And we became acquainted then. He was under a lot of heat, and I think he welcomed my support.
In time, did your relationship eventually become more intimate?
Yes.
How?
Well, I started receiving mysterious gifts. I thought at first they were from my husband. And he allowed me to believe that for a while. And then I discovered it was Dr. Dorman.
Giving you presents?
Yes.
Did you do anything to encourage that kind of behavior?
No.
How did you feel about Dr. Dorman when you found out that he was your secret admirer?
Surprised, flattered.
Did you confront him?
Oh, yes, and I gave him back the presents, even though he urged me to keep them.
And why didn't you?
It was not appropriate.
So was that the end of it?
No. Dr. Dorman can be very persuasive and very insistent.
So tell us what happened next.
Well, at the time, my husband and I were having some problems. Actually, we were headed for a separation. And as much as I am loath to say this, I began to welcome Dr. Dorman's attention.
Did your relationship eventually become sexual?
Yes. We became lovers the night that my husband left our home.
Did you ever hold a gun to his head and force him to have sex with you?
No.
Did you threaten him into bed?
No, definitely not.
How long did the affair continue?
Several months.
And during that time, what was your perception of the parameters of this relationship?
Well, I felt we were two consenting adults, taking mutual satisfaction and comfort from each other, with no strings attached.
At any point, did you find Dr. Dorman to be a reluctant participant?
I would hardly describe him as reluctant.
Did you ever have second thoughts about your affair with the plaintiff?
I was very conflicted. I was and am still very much in love with my husband. But for some reason, I was not able to respond to him. It was different with Pierce. So on one hand, I wanted him in my life.
For physical gratification.
Yes.
And on the other hand?
He had a certain arrogance, a need to control that I found very disturbing, very off-putting.
Objection, Your Honor, to this characterization of Dr. Dorman.
I submit that the plaintiff's character is an issue very much to the point.
The answer will stand.
Did Dr. Dorman accept your decision to end the affair gracefully?
Oh, no, he did not.
What was his reaction?
He was very cold, very angry. He said terrible things. In fact, I couldn't believe he was the same man I had taken as a lover.
What kind of things? And I know that this is very painful, but it's very important for the judge to hear it.
He said, "Look at me, look at you. I am the last young lover you're ever going to have." I was shocked, but I gave him the benefit of the doubt. People say things when they're hurt or angry. I know that better than most. But Dr. Dorman was just warming up. He ridiculed me as a desperate, middle-aged woman who couldn't get her own husband to go to bed with her, and implied that I should be very grateful that he would. He informed me that our affair would be over when he said it was over. I believe he called me stupid. He said nobody walked out on him, and he threw a champagne glass across the room, shattering it. It was all very effective. I tried to reason with him to explain that his anger was counterproductive. We had to maintain a professional relationship at the hospital. I even suggested that we remain friends, but he wouldn't hear of any of it.
Shortly thereafter, didn't Dr. Dorman leave General Hospital?
Yes.
His choice?
Yes.
Do you know why?
Rats deserting a sinking ship. General Hospital was going through some financial difficulties, and Dr. Dorman decided he wanted to be elsewhere.
That would be Mercy Hospital.
Yes.
But he's currently at General Hospital.
Well, yes, when the financial problems were straightened out and the hospital reopened, back he came.
Did you have anything to do with his return?
No, I didn't, actually. He wanted me to sign a form recommending his reinstatement, but I wouldn't.
Why not?
I wasn't very impressed with his sense of loyalty.
How did he respond to your refusal?
By presenting me with this lawsuit.
Dr. Quartermain, just so that we're all clear, throughout the lifetime of your relationship with Dr. Dorman, that is, before, during, and after you were lovers, have you ever made unwanted sexual advances toward him?
No.
Any offensive remarks, inappropriate touches, anything of that nature?
Never.
No further questions.
So, Dr. Quartermain, in a nutshell, what Dr. Dorman says you did to him, you say he did to you.
That about sums it up.
Are you claiming he sexually harassed you and not the other way around?
I said there was harassment. Sex had something to do with it, but...
That's not quite the same, is it? Because sexual harassment has as much to do with the misuse of authority as the misuse of sex. And, of course, Dr. Dorman has no authority over you.
Nor I over him. He's not even in my department.
And yet, do you remember your Old Testament, Dr. Quartermain? I'm thinking now of the Charlton Heston version.
Will the witness be allowed to buy a vowel?
Mr. Graff.
Just making an analogy, Your Honor. Do you remember how the Pharaoh's wife tormented Moses? Now, how did she get away with that?
I suppose because she was the Pharaoh's wife.
As were you. Which brings us to the issue of the Pharaoh himself.